Jaya Radha Madhava Swami Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srimasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare. We're talking about Canto 10, chapter 65, verse 32. Vaseta Vasasinile Mala Amucha Kanchanim Pareje Svalankrato Lupto Mahendra Eva Avadana
Vasitva Vasayinile Malam Amucha Kanchanim Neyesva Alankrito Lipto Mahindra Eva Varana
Vasitva, dressing himself. Vasasi, in two garments. Nile, blue, malam, necklace, amucha, putting on, kanchanim, gold, oreje. He appeared resplendent, Su, excellently, alankrata, ornament, lipta, anointed, Mahendra, King of Heaven, Eva, like, Varana, elephant. Translation: Lord Balaram dressed himself in the blue garments and put on the gold necklace. Anointed with fragrances and beautifully adorned, he appeared as resplendent as Indra's royal elephant. Purport: anointed with sandalwood paste and other pure fragrant substances, Balaram resembled Airavata, the great elephant of Lord Indra. This is a description of Balaram visiting Vrindavan. We know that after Krishna left Vrindavan, he didn't return for some time, and everybody was very anxious. So at one point afterwards, Balaram went there and somewhat pacified the gopis and the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, and he stayed there for some time. Of course, then he left again. So, in this way, this chapter is describing Balaram's visit to Vrindavan. This is describing his ornaments. So, the point here is that usually we have a description of Krishna, and those descriptions are, we can say, traditional. They're set descriptions of Krishna. Krishna has a certain form, and similarly we have the form of Balaram described. And I spoke last night that the form of God is controversial in many religions. And they don't want to accept a form of God because their forms are material, forms are limited, etc. However, and even in India, not just other religions of the world, but even in India, the followers of Shankaracharya also say God has no form because forms are limited. So even half of India more or less accepts that God has no form. So, and probably the only group in the whole world of people who are spiritual who say God has a form are the Vaishnavas. Nobody else really wants to say God has a form. But we say out loud that God must have a form, and therefore whole Bhagavatam is dedicated to describing the forms of the Lord, including Krishna and Balaram, Varaha and Shrima, etc. So we have all these different forms of the Lord. Not only forms of the Lord, but also their activities, or their qualities. So this is a unique contribution to the religions of the world. In universities, they have a comparative religion. That's one of the topics they have in universities, is to compare the religions of the world. Probably they don't even get to the Vaishnavas, and they're comparing all these other religions. But it's the Vaishnavas who have this unique idea that God has a form, which nobody really accepts and nobody else really accepts. So this is quite unique, even for Indians. So when they cover the world religions, they get to India, then they also say God has no form because that's what Shankaracharya says. So most people, when they study Hinduism, they think that God has no form also, because they don't know about the Vaishnava conclusion, which is in Bhagavatam and other Puranas. So anyway, we do have to follow tradition. There are many traditions around the world, and there are also many traditions in India. And that's why we get all sorts of different ideas in India itself. God has form, God has no form, etc. But we have many different followers of different groups. Recently there was Kumbh Mela, one called the Shivites are there. So that's one group of people. But that's not the only type of people in India. There's so many other groups as well. So, nevertheless, we do have to ultimately have some authority. And of course in India, traditional people will accept that authority. And what is that authority? Authority is the Vedas. There is a certain set of scripture that everybody must follow. And then you're considered bona fide. So in tradition, those who follow the Vedas, they get some acceptance. Those who don't follow the Vedas are called Nastika, which means literally atheists. But it could be people who are very religious, but they don't follow the Vedas, they call them Nastika. No faith in the Vedas. Like Buddhism, they say they reject the Vedas, so they're called Nastika. So those who accept the Vedas are acceptable. But unfortunately, even if you accept the Vedas, we have all sorts of groups who come to opposite conclusions. So we do have what are called the Sandarshanas, the 6 darshanas, like Samkhya and Vaisheshika, Yoga, Vedanta, Karma, Mimamsa, Nyaya, logic. These are considered quite prominent groups of people following the Vedas in ancient India. What's the problem? They follow one scripture, Vedas, we accept the authority of the Vedas, but opposite conclusions. In fact, some of them say there is no God. Karma Mimamsa, no God. Sankhya, no God. Others will accept impersonal God, Brahman type of thing, like the logicians and Kannada and a few others, yoga. It's some sort of God, but no form. Only in one section of Vedanta, we will get the Vaishnavas who accept, yes, God has a form, but everybody else no. And even in Vedanta, Shankar's Vedanta, no God again, no form for God. So only a very small section of the people following the Vedas will accept God as a form. So it is very peculiar. We follow the Vedas, but we get opposite conclusions. So we do have to have some, even if we accept the Vedas, we do have to have some sort of idea about how to come to the correct meaning of everything. So of course, Veda Vyas is very famous because he did not write the Vedas. He simply recorded what was there. He didn't make anything up. He just, what he had heard, he wrote down, that's all. So the Vedas are actually said to be eternal sound. At the beginning of the day of Brahma, it appears, the Vedas appear. When Brahma disappears, it all disappears. When Brahma appears, another Brahma appears in another universe, and Vedas appear again, same Vedas. So Brahma doesn't write the Vedas, he simply, it comes out of his mouth. And it's repetitively, it keeps appearing in the same form all the time. So, the Vedas are there, but they also have to be transmitted properly. And there are some techniques for maintaining the transmission. Of course, one is transmission of the sound itself. You can just memorize all the Vedas and all the sounds and whatever like that, fine. But important is we have to get the meaning, the proper meaning. If we don't get the proper meaning, then what's the use of memorizing all these sounds? So not only the meaning has to be transmitted, but also the meaning of the Vedas. And it has to be transmitted, person after person after person like that. So therefore we get what is called a tradition, or amnaya. This is a general term. It means, this traditional customs, etc. It also refers to the Veda itself. It's called amnaya. And it also refers to this process of handing down the Vedas generation after generation after generation, so that the meaning is intact. Not just the Vedic sound, but the meaning also is there. That is Amnaya. Now, so that is very important. We'll see even in Bhagavatam, everything is transmitted by hearing. Somebody is questioning, somebody is speaking, another person's hearing, and then he gets the message and he passes it on. So even Bhagavad Gita, this whole process is carried on again. Bhagavad Gita is transmitted in that way. In the modern world, we may say, well, he just has the books, take the books and we can read the books. Why we need people to transmit? Or even now we don't even need books. We got everything recorded and whatever, we have recordings of all the sound, and you have your iPhones and whatever, you can look at an iPhone like that, and why do we need people to transmit anymore? So that seems like a simple solution that cuts out the idea that we need transmission at all, because it's all there, electronic media. But there's also a good reason for this transmission from person to person, which we can also say is one of the controversies in the modern world with, artificial intelligence, etc. Is it really knowledge that you're getting transmitted when all the computers are doing everything for you and giving you knowledge? Is it real knowledge at all? We don't know. In ancient times, they were actually more advanced than us, so if they wanted, they could have had, electronic media, whatever, but that was considered to be very vulgar. They had a different way of transmitting. It's just a brain. You memorize everything and hear it, and it goes in, and you bring it, you should transmit it properly. That was considered to be a more effective means of transmitting the knowledge, not just sound. So, that's the system in ancient times. One person would speak, another would listen, and that person would absorb it, and he would give it to another person. And we see in the Bible, this is what happens. We have Krishna instructing Uddhava. In 11th canto, Vidura speaks to Uddhava. In the 3rd canto, Maitreya teaches Vidura. In the 3rd canto, etc. With all of these transmissions of knowledge. In fact, at the beginning of the Bhagavatam also, we have Sutta instructing the sages, Namishranya. They are curious, so they ask 6 questions, and then they get answers gradually. And then that is expanded to make the whole Bhagavatam. We have in the 1st canto also, Narada gives instruction to Vyasa, because Vyasa wrote Puranas, Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutras, and he compiled all the Vedas, and still he was dissatisfied, so that Narada Muni gave him instructions. And Vasudev, he instructed Sukadeva. Sukadeva instructed Parikshit. So transmission is there from person to person. And through this we get our disciplic succession of the parampara system, based on transmission of knowledge, Amnaya, etc. So this is the transmission line that you see in the Bhagavad Gita mentioned, which is traced back. It's in the Bhagavad Gita, it's in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's books, and it goes back to Kavi Karnapura. In one of his works, he has given this succession of people. Of course, we have the modern ones here, with the addition of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaura Babaji, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada. So we get, again, this transmission of knowledge, which is actually separate from Diksha. This is a transmission of knowledge. So why it's important is because we want to keep the knowledge intact. And the best way of doing that is person to person. In spite of that, material world is such that it's not a perfect system. Time is a destroying factor of everything. So over time, your whole system, even your parampara, can get broken. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the whole system was broken, now I'm teaching you because science appears to be lost. So in spite of this precaution, again, things can get broken up. And the line can get somehow lost. And we see that in India, the Vedas were transmitted orally, particularly the Vedas, by the Brahmins. And it's remarkable that this is from 5,000 years ago. They have they trace lines up until the present day. That father taught son, son taught son. It goes down for thousands of years like this. What they do is they memorize the whole Veda, inside out, all 4 parts of the Veda, with all the svaras, etc. And then they had to learn the meaning of the Veda. Once they got that one Veda, okay, you got 1 degree. And if you're proficient, you can start 2 Veda, 3 Veda, 4 Veda, you're a Chaturvedi. Learn all 4 Vedas. But they would carry this on, memorizing and then giving it to their children and disciples and whatever. And this is how they did it for thousands of years. All in the mind. And they would recite it. Others would have to memorize it all like that. But I said, lines get broken. So even, let's say, 100 years ago, Rig Veda may have had like 100 still intact transmissions. 100 years ago, today there's maybe 10 left. They've died out in the last 100 years. So many have died out. No more sons to transmit. Sons go off and work someplace, go to America, whatever. They don't learn the Veda anymore. And no more because you can't get to make money that way. So things die out. So the parampara systems also seem to have this problem because of the nature of time. So this is a problem, how to counteract time and keep the parampara from breaking. Of course, Vyasadeva had his solution. This is 5,000 years ago. He understood that people could not learn all the Vedas so nicely. So he divided one big Veda into 4 parts, gave 1 part, 1/4 of the whole Veda to 1 person rather than all the Vedas. So this has made it a little easier. And then he gave these to the disciples, and they made some paramparas or online like that. So in this way, the whole system was carried on. And this is described in the first canto of Bhagavatam. Yeah. So as I said, the Vedas are too vast, so that's why Vedavyas divided 1 Veda into 4, so you wouldn't have such a problem. You only had to memorize 1/4 rather than the whole thing if you wanted to learn 1 Veda. But the Vedas is that each Veda has 4 parts also. So you have to learn all of the parts. To learn 1 Veda, you have to learn Brahmanas, Aranyakakas, Upanishads, and Samhita sections. Even that is a big task. So Vyasadeva understood that people in Kali Yuga are less intelligent, so this is one of his means. Make it a little bit easier by making smaller Vedas. So the Vedas are there, even 1/4 of the Veda, you get Rig Veda or Yajur Veda or whatever, it's a little easier, but the meaning is also difficult. People scratch their head, even today, over the meaning of some of the statements in the Vedas. They don't know what it means. So Vyasa had another solution. Let's simplify the grammar, make the meaning more direct for people. So he wrote 1 Brahma Sutras to give the essential knowledge of the Upanishads. He wrote Mahabharata, in which we get Bhagavad Gita, and the Puranas. So these are simpler. Language is simpler. Available for everybody. And no restriction of caste or whatever. So whatever birth, you can hear Bhagavad Gita, and Mahabharata, and Puranas, etc. And it's full of nice stories that keep people's attention. So he wrote all these Puranas, for instance, 18 Puranas. Out of mercy, he said, okay, some people are in Tamagun, some people in Rajagun, some people in Sattvagun. So they don't have the same interest. So I will attract the people in Tamagun by writing 6 Puranas for them. And what do? I will select for them an object of worship, Shiva, because he's in charge of Tamagun. Let them worship Shiva. So he wrote 6 Puranas for the people of Tamagun, in which Shiva is glorified as supreme. For the people in Rajagun, he selected Brahma, because Brahma is in charge of Rajagun, in charge of creation. So people in Rajagun can worship Brahma. And for people in Sattvagun, worship Vishnu. So in this way, different Puranas are saying Brahma is supreme, Shiva is supreme, Vishnu is supreme, because applying to different people. So he wanted to make it similar for people. So not only Vyasa was thinking of the people, other sages also began to write things for people to make it practical. So we have a whole series of Smriti Shastras, about 19 different works written by great sages like Bhanu, Yajnavalkya, Atri. And these are systems of rules of Varnashram, how everybody should conduct themselves, how the Brahmanas should act, how the Vaishyas should act, Sudras and Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, how they should all act, how kings should act, how they should govern properly. All these detailed rules are there for them. But Vyasadeva also thought, well, that's too many works now. We've got too many things. We've got 18 Puranas, we've got Mahabharata, and Valmiki's written Ramayana, we've got the 4 Vedas, we've got the Brahma Sutras, we've got the Smriti Shastras, too much. So that's where Narada Muni came to Vyasa and said, okay, it's too complicated for people in Kali Yuga. You give them too many things for them. So let's simplify again. So he said, you write one work with one object of worship. Don't give them option, okay, worship Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, they all get confused. Just one object of worship, Krishna. That's all. So then, Vyasa wrote Srimad Bhagavatam as the final authority, which it has the meaning of the Vedas, the meaning of the Upanishads, the meaning of the Brahma Sutras, the meaning of the Puranas, meaning of the Mahabharata. All that condensed into one work. So you don't have to learn all these works, 4 Vedas, and the Upanishads, and Mahabharata, and all 18 Puranas, and whatever. Just one work, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was the work of Veda Vyas, which gave the conclusion of everything in the simplest possible manner. And therefore, we don't have to go to all these different works. We just take the conclusion from Srimad Bhagavatam. So that becomes the authority. So if we're thinking of what should we do, study at least Srimad Bhagavatam, and maybe then we can get the proper conclusion instead of having all these sub-darshanas and the atheistic philosophy or whatever impersonal philosophy. You get the proper conclusion from Srimad Bhagavatam. We don't have any problem. So, this is the why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu selected the Bhagavatam as the main object of study. We see when he was in Puri, every day he would be reading and hearing recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Gadadhar and others would be reciting, he would be relishing Bhagavatam. Not Vedas, other Puranas or whatever, just Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavatam itself, Krishna is glorified, and consequently, Bhagavatam is considered to be the highest fruit on the desired tree of the Vedas. Vedas means all the Vedic literatures, and they all give fruits. You can get different results from the different Vedas and all the Vedic literatures. But Bhagavatam gives the best fruit, the highest fruit on the tree. Why it's the highest fruit? Because it is Krishna. Radha Krishna. It's the sweetest fruit of all. And that's what makes it the highest fruit of all. So that is the contribution of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's stressed in the Bhagavatam himself, and it's the first canto, 3rd verse. It's the highest fruit on the tree. It's the sweetest fruit on the tree. It is without seeds and without skin. Drink it. You don't have to chew it. You drink it through the ear. So that's Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we trace our parampara, we're actually tracing the conclusion of Bhagavatam. It's coming down like this. Huh? And so we see that Srila Prabhupada also concentrated on commenting on Bhagavatam. When he was in India, what was he doing? Writing commentary on Bhagavatam. And then he managed to publish first canto in India, 3 volumes. And then he took that in a trunk on the ship and brought it to America. So this was his attempt to carry on the parampara properly by translating the Srimad Bhagavatam and making a commentary. We see that all the works, Bhagavatam is very popular. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed the Goswamis in Vrindavan
to write works to support bhakti. So, Sanatana Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto. Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto. Later on, Baladev Bhusan wrote a commentary on the 10th canto. And Vishnu Chakravarti wrote a commentary on the whole Bhagavatam, not just 10th canto. And then, following that, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he did a commentary, based on the previous commentaries in the whole Bhagavatam. And then Srila Prabhupada also, he got up to 10th canto, chapter 14, before he passed away. So it was a great concentration on the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, how it comes down. So, in this way, our acharyas have tried to preserve the meaning, not just the words, but the meaning. Of course, because we had printing presses, they were introduced by the British into India. Preserving the works was not so difficult anymore. Previous to that, the way of preserving it was palm leaf manuscripts, which is not a very permanent way because, like paper, palm leaf manuscripts also decay over time or whatever like that, and you have to write manually on it. At least the paper, you have printing press, so you have many copies, but palm leaf manuscript, that one person has to write everything. And they're very thick, so you have piles and piles of Bhagavatam in a whole room of palm leaves to make the Bhagavatam, and then it perishes eventually. Not available for everybody. Just a wealthy person or a great king would have these palm leaf manuscripts. So with the printing press, it became a little easier because they could make multiple copies and distribute more freely to people and keep them in the libraries or whatever. Still, of course, they're perishable or whatever, but a little bit of system of at least preserving the text and the commentaries. So that's how our commentaries have come down now. First, palm leaf manuscripts that Goswami was writing in palm leaf like this. Later on, they put them into print so that, especially Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he had all these printing presses in his temples. They were preserving and printing his works so that it was preserved for the future. So this is where we got works coming down. Commentaries of our acharyas with Bhagavatam and other works. There are other ways of preserving knowledge. So in Bhagavatam, we got the whole Bhagavatam condensed in 4 verses.
Chapter Sloki of the Bhagavatam. We can say, well, how can Bhagavatam be condensed into 4 verses? I would rather read 4 verses than read the whole Bhagavatam. It's easier. Unfortunately, yes, the whole Bhagavatam, but it's so condensed that most of us cannot access it. So that's why it's been expanded. But it's like a shorthand. And if you already know the Bhagavatam, you can figure it out in 4 verses. You can expand the Bhagavatam back. So anyway, this is a way of preserving the knowledge by condensing it into shorter forms. Another way, of course, is mantras. Everything can also be within a mantra. The whole Vedas, all of the Vedas are condensed into the Gayatri mantra. That's why the Gayatri mantra is passed down from father to son. And it becomes a qualification for studying the Vedas, because it's the whole Vedas in a very condensed form. And if you were to realize the meaning of Gayatri mantra, then you would realize all the Vedas are. So, That's another way, through mantras. Of course, we also have Pancharatric mantras, which again are concentration of knowledge. So we have Vaishnava Diksha, and through Diksha you get Vaishnava Pancharatric mantra. So we get a Krishna mantra. So that is said to be condensation of all knowledge again. If you chant this mantra, you realize Krishna. Krishna is everything. So it's complete knowledge. So this is one way of transmitting the knowledge through Diksha. So we get a Diksha Parampara. Of course, our Parampara, we don't trace a Diksha line, we're tracing a Shiksha line. But you can trace Diksha lines. Lord Chaitanya took Diksha. He got a mantra, 10-syllable Krishna mantra from his guru in Gaya. Nityananda got 10-syllable mantra from his guru. Advaita Acharya got mantra from his guru, so they passed it on to other people, whatever. So we get a parampara of carrying on the Diksha mantra also, which is condensed knowledge. That's one way of doing it. So these are all ways of guaranteeing the parampara. Lord Chaitanya, however, he emphasized revolutionary means. What is that? Nam Sankirtan. This is the essence of knowledge. What makes it revolutionary is you don't even require Diksha. Everything is in Hare Krishna. The complete knowledge of everything, because it's not different from Krishna, but it's more easily accessible. It does not need the qualification of other things. If you want to know get the Brahma Gayatri, you have to be qualified. You have to be a Brahmin or whatever. If you want to get Vaishnava Diksha, again you have to be qualified. You may have to wait for 5 years or 10 years, and then Guru will give you the mantra. You may have to write a few examinations also. Get some testimony from temple president. So there's qualification necessary for Diksha, and getting the mantra. But chanting Hare Krishna, no. We tell everybody you chant Hare Krishna on the street and whatever. We don't say you have to take a test to get the mantra. We give it up freely to everybody. So this is, but it's not less. Again, it's the concentration of Krishna. Bhagavatam, of course, is Krishna. The Diksha mantra is Krishna, and Harinam is Krishna also. But more accessible. Why is it more accessible? Because it's more powerful. We see the name of Vishnu was such that Ajamil doesn't have any faith. He didn't believe in Vishnu. But he chanted the name Narayana, and what happened? All of his sins were finished. All of his karma was gone immediately. Yamaraj could not touch him. And so the name of the Lord is very, very powerful. And it doesn't require anything. Even accidental can have such power. So if we chant it intentionally with faith, of course, it has more power than what was given to Ajamil. So this is the way of Lord Chaitanya. Spread name of Krishna everywhere. And why it's so powerful is because, of course, Krishna is supreme form, as we know in Bhagavatam. He's Swami Bhagavan. He is the most attractive form. He manifests more qualities than any other form. He has more mercy than any other form. He has more attractive qualities than any other form. So we worship Krishna. But the name Krishna itself is the same. So by chanting the name Krishna, it doesn't require any qualification. You can realize Krishna. So the name of Krishna itself is very, very powerful. This is from Padma Purana. This verse of Nama that is the name of Krishna, is Chintamani, and Krishna is Chintamani. Chintamani means is a touchstone. What is a touchstone? If you have this nice jewel and you wish for something, you get it. So you wish for $1 million or something, you get it. You wish for a golden car, you get a golden car. You wish for a big house, you get a big house. That is a desire stone or touchstone, like a desire tree. So Krishna is the ultimate touchstone. Whatever you want, you get from Krishna. If you want material things, you can get it. This, of course, is not pure. Just chant the name of Krishna, he can give you prema. Of course, if you want material things, you can get material things as well, or liberation, but devotees want prema. So by chanting the name of Krishna, you get prema, nothing else necessary. Non-different from Krishna. Krishna is Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, form of rasa. Why rasa? Rasa means, through rasa, you experience bliss. So if you get rasa with Krishna, you get bliss. But not material rasa, Chaitanya rasa, spiritual rasa. You establish spiritual relations with Krishna, then you experience bliss. But you can give that through the name. Chant the name, you get Krishna rasa, and then you get bliss. So like Krishna, the name is full, complete, 64 qualities instead of 60 qualities. All the qualities will manifest of Krishna in the name. It is Sudha. It is not a material sound, because Krishna has not got a material form. His name also not a material sound. And it is Nityamukta. Krishna appears in the material world, but not contaminated. Name appears in the material world, not contaminated. We can hear the name with our ear, but actually it's not material sound at all. It's not subject to the gunas. Completely different. So this is the name. This is how we transmit the knowledge in Kali Yuga. As said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one does not have to undergo initiation, diksha, or execute activities required before initiation as purascharya, different activities you do, like tapasyas, etc., to get certain results from your mantra. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips, thus even a man of the lowest class of Chandala can be delivered. So this is the way of deliverance in Kali Yuga. No restrictions, open for everybody, like that. So even accidental chanting gives so many good results like that. However, though anyone can chant the holy name, if we deliberately offend devotees or Krishna or the name, it's not good for us, so we don't progress. So namaparada is not good. Namabhas, like in Ajamil's case, gives effect, but not complete effect. Chanting with devotion, pure devotion, anya abhilasha shunya, we chant with no desires for material benefit or liberation, and just to please Krishna, that is called Sudama. And with that, we get quick progress, and we can get to prema. So, name is there, open for everybody, gives some result for everybody, but if we want prema, Sudanam. How do we get Sudanam? Knowledge. We've got to have Bhagavatam knowledge. We have to know who Krishna is. We have to avoid the offenses. We have to have pure devotion, not mixed devotion, etc. So even with the name, we have a tradition. We have to have proper knowledge coming down in the tradition. So we still need this parampara in one sense. The name has to come from the right source. In modern Kali Yuga here we have, of course, Prabhupada went to the West and established kirtan everywhere, so it became popular around the world. Now we see many groups are doing kirtan, and they're not even devotees. They're maybe Mayavadis or impersonalists or yogis and whatever. Many yoga groups are doing kirtan. But if you want to get the highest effect, if you want prema, you should come in a parampara and have the proper knowledge. You know, who is Krishna, who is Bhagavan, etc. So we should still preserve the parampara. So, therefore, we need the teachings, the scripture, along with everything. So Lord Chaitanya was emphasizing Harinam, Harinama, but he was simultaneously emphasizing scripture. In the modern world, we see many people are not interested in scripture, and many gurus come to the West and they preach no scripture. They don't mention scripture at all. And our movement is quite different. It's full of scripture. We're emphasizing books all the time. Nobody else does that. It's a very unique movement. But why? Because this goes back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was emphasizing also, we have to have a basis. So, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was very interested in preserving everything. That's why he translated so many things. He was researching and he found different scriptures. He published them. He made it simpler for people by explaining it nicely for modern minds. His work was continued by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He had a printing press, he was continually printing works, etc. At the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he would ask people, have you seen a Chaitanya Charitamrita? And everyone said, no, we heard about it, we never seen one. It was not available. There were some written manuscripts maybe on palm leaf somewhere. And one person said, oh, well, I think I have one passed down in our family, sitting in the closet somewhere. But he had never read it also. So even to get a Chaitanya Charitamrita in Bhaktivinoda's time was very, very difficult to get. Nobody had seen one. So therefore he actually discovered one and he began to print it, wrote a commentary on it and everything. So this was the condition of things. So our acharyas have tried to preserve things and hand it down very nicely. And of course we have Prabhupada in the present day also doing the same thing, continuing that knowledge. So we see that although he was traveling all over the world, he had the servant with the tape recorder and the dictaphone and all this, and he had all these books. And every morning he would be dictating the commentaries, and then the BBT would take them and publish books like that. So in this way, the knowledge gets preserved and carried on. We have other places also, the Bhaktivinoda Research Center in Calcutta. So they are preserving these Vaishnava works. Some they even get some rare manuscripts, etc. And the old books, they're preserving all these books, collecting everything, and preserving it very nicely. We have the Bhaktivedanta Swami Charity Trust, which goes around and preserves the sites, the different holy places of the associates of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal, in Orissa. There's Udaran Thakur's Shripad, his birthplace there is all falling apart. There's no roof or anything there. So they help repair these different places like that. So, in the Nectar of Devotion, it says, a person who is skillful in scripture and logic, completely firm in his belief, with deep faith, is considered qualified as Uttama in Vaidhi Bhakti. So, if we can guarantee that people have the proper knowledge, they're in an Uttama category as a practicing devotee doing sadhana. So that's why we do have things like Ministry of Education, Bhakti Shastri, and all these different courses to guarantee that people get a certain level of knowledge within our society. So the Ministry of Education is, of course, knowledge isn't everything. So we should not think that we get a degree on Bhakti Shastri or a Bhakti Vedanta that we know everything also. Because knowledge is there, but it has to be accompanied by devotion. And if we just have the knowledge aspect based on logic, we have this taka apartishtanat. Logic is insubstantial. And by logic, you can prove the opposite also. So you can just argue even on Shastra with your logic and come up with crazy conclusions. So we have to be very devotional in our approach to knowledge. Even when there's a little taste for the topic of bhakti, you can understand it. He who tries to understand bhakti by dry logic cannot understand it because logic is insubstantial. So logic is necessary at one time, maybe for Uttama Bhakti, but at the same time, we do need the devotion there. So that we get the proper thing. Okay. So we have Harinam as the main process now, but we do need scripture to get pure bhakti. So we need the process of hearing, and we need the tradition of our acharyas. That is the parampara system. Okay, fine. Good. Any questions?
You are saying the Vedas lead to conclusions. People drive different conclusions. Like, as we conclude, according to Mahaprabhu's basis, that Krishna has formed with some of the Shankaracharya followers, they don't follow, they don't accept Rupa. But when we have, but all of us are getting the conclusions from the Vedas only.
One, of course, is what scriptures are people willing to accept? Most people you talk to don't know anything about the scripture in the first place. So they're just basing their idea on what somebody else said. Maybe their guru, maybe they read it in another book, like a textbook or a high school textbook or something. So first we have to understand that we should have a scriptural basis, but then we have what scripture you're following. Of course, I could say Vedas, but unlikely that anybody's read the Vedas in the modern world. So we do have to be particular. So if a person is willing to accept that, for instance, Bhagavad Gita, then very easily we can show that Krishna has a form. If they're not willing to say Bhagavad Gita, okay, then we have a serious problem. They don't accept Bhagavad Gita, they don't accept Vedas, what do they accept? But most people aren't even at that level, they don't know what they're accepting. Now, of course, Shankaracharya also wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, which is ultimately impersonal. So even you take a word, which for us looks obviously personal, by interpretation, you can come out with opposite meaning. As I said, by logic, you can come out with opposite meaning. So it is possible. So that's why we should also have not only the scripture, like Bhagavad Gita, but with Acharya Parampara, so we can get the correct meaning. So of course people say, well, you're following your meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. Why? That's the only meaning I have my meaning. So there are principles of how to get meaning in the Vedas, in the Vedic knowledge. It's not you can just get any meaning you want out of anything. There should be consistency, and there are rules in the Vedas on how you can get the meaning. So we should follow those rules. One of the rules is, as much as possible, we take the direct meaning. We don't interpret the word and make it mean something else. The direct meaning is called abhida, and the indirect meaning is called lakshana. So sometimes we have to take indirect meaning. For the example is, there is a village on the Ganga. So if we take that literally, there's a village floating in the Ganga, in the middle of the Ganga. That doesn't make any sense. So, okay, we have to take lakshana in that case. It's not the real meaning. Real meaning is, there's a village on the bank of the Ganga. What we say on the Ganga for short. So we're interpreting the word on the Ganga to mean on the bank of the Ganga. So that's a reasonable interpretation. It's not the direct meaning, but it's reasonable because it makes sense. But when we take lakshana, where you can take the direct meaning, because it fits our philosophy more, then that is not correct. So, if we take Bhagavad Gita, and we have Krishna talks about his form, etc. And we would say, okay, Krishna has a form, he's in the battlefield, he's speaking to Arjuna, and Arjuna says, I don't like that terrible form, can show me your peaceful form, whatever like that. Can we take the direct meaning? That's simple. If you're an impersonalist, you don't want to accept form of God at all, so then you have to start interpreting that to mean something else. So that's what we call unnecessary interpretation of things. So that's how we get all these, the Vedas, and then we get all these different philosophies, some of which are completely impersonal, because they end up with the wrong meaning, because they're interpreting the Vedas, or taking only a section of the Vedas, not the complete conclusion.
Saradarshiನಿ, commentary by Vishwanath Thakur on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in a dialogue format between. How do we?
Where we get a question, somebody asks a question, well, why is it like that? And he answers. Well, you will find it goes back to even Sridhar Swami does the same thing. And then also even in the Brahma Sutras, this is a common thing. We've got the Purva Paksha, and then we get the answer. So it's a common way of presenting an idea. So there's a statement there, and then there's a counter statement or whatever like that. So this is the answer to a certain doubt or whatever like that. So it's a common way of explaining why certain statements are like that in response to a certain doubt.
negation.
Maharaj, pramana, normal in mundane language, when we say pramana, means evidence. And we have seen
Proof,
one of
yes.
yeah, evidence. So here when we see that Bhagavatam is the chief pramana for the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
So what type of evidence we are talking? Shabda?
Okay, by the word praman means evidence. We can say it also means scripture, because scripture is evidence. So we want an authoritative proof of a statement. So we say Krishna is God. Well, we need a pramana for that. So we go to scripture and then we'll see Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam in Bhagavatam. So that's the pramana. Bhagavatam is the pramana, and that particular statement is the pramana. It's the proof. It's the authoritative statement that supports my particular statement. So we have pramana, that's scripture in general, Vedic scripture in general. And ultimately we say Bhagavatam is the ultimate pramana. It's the ultimate evidence for us. We can take refer to that for any statement we make if it coincides with it.
Srila Prabhupada quotes Srila Swami quite rapidly in Srimad Bhagavatam. Is Srila Swami also the parampara? Is he different?
He's not considered to be a pure Vaishnava because some of his commentaries tend to be a little impersonal in the sense that he'll take the direct meaning of things like in Bhagavatam, like Atma or something. So it's not, for example, Paramatma or Krishna. Then you may just take it as Brahman or whatever like that. Of course, he also has, sometimes they say, Atma means Paramatma as well. And of course, Bhagavatam is about Krishna, so therefore he says Krishna is Bhagavan also. So it's not, blatantly impersonal, but then certain verses he may give a more impersonal interpretation, whereas Vishnu Chakra will make it all into a very personal thing. So Jiva Goswami in his Satsandarbhas has said, yes, we will accept Sridhar Swami because some of those things are very reasonable and bad, but other things are a little bit impersonal, so we don't accept those.
Sometimes where you see that Vedas is two components, one is the interpretation, the other one is the recitation of the Vedas itself. So some people recite it fluently, but does that mean that, but they don't know the actual meaning of it, but they just recite it. Does that also be considered as application?
Does it become?
Does that also apply as bhakti, form of bhakti, when they just recite?
If you just recite it without the meaning. Well, for Vedas, it is said that unless you know the meaning, it's useless. So you can recite all the Vedas and whatever, you don't know the meaning and what it means, that the real Shakti of those sounds is not going to come out properly. That's for Vedas. Name of the Lord is different. You can chant it without knowing the meaning, like Achamil, and not thinking of Narayan at all, thinking of the sun, and you still get a nice effect. So the name is very, very powerful. Okay.
Maharaj, you're talking about the holy name, which is most powerful. It could be just recited as it is without any teaching or anything. But at the end, you concluded saying that Shuddhana, the purity of the chanting, happens when you get it through Parampara system.
Yeah.
So when we just tell the neophyte devotee to just chant, it would be fine. But would they be getting the same power as what they would be getting from the Parampara succession, or it would be?
Yeah, so the name in any case has power, as we see in Ajamil's case, he can destroy sins or whatever. If we want prema, want to get prema, then we do require some knowledge. So therefore we can say, okay, you chant to people, and we don't insist you have to read all scriptures, you read, but you just chant and it helps destroy your karmas and whatever. But when they become more serious, then we also say, well, you should read Bhagavad Gita, whatever. So the reason for that is that we can chant the name of Krishna, but we should not offend Krishna in the process, and we should also understand who Krishna is.
So many people will say, okay, I'll chant Krishna's name, and then they'll look up on the internet and find, okay, Krishna means he's one of the 10 avatars and he's like a Devata or something. So then they'll think, okay, Krishna is some Devata like, Indra or something like that. So we'll chant Krishna's name, but, he's just like a Devata. So that's like also one of the offenses to the name, to consider the name of Vishnu like the name of Shiva or Brahma or whatever. So we tend to commit aparad if we have this ignorance. Huh? So we have to know the actual identity of who we are worshipping when we say the name Krishna. That's one thing. The other thing is, when we say the name Krishna, you can have different goals. Everybody has a goal when they chant. They're doing it for peace, or they're going to destroy their suffering, or maybe they would want to get money, whatever like that. So we have different goals, but we're trying to tell people that the highest goal is not material, is not liberation, it is prema, pure service to Krishna. So to understand that requires a little bit of knowledge. To have unconditional love for Krishna is a very high concept, but it gives the best result. So we have to convey that to people also, otherwise they start chanting for other reasons, and they can get those things because the name is the Chintamani, so we can give you all these minor things, but if you want to concentrate on prema, then we need to have specialized knowledge of what is prema. So that type of knowledge is necessary for prema.
Other religion people, they eat meat and it's allowed in the religion. So they follow what their religion says. Do they still go back to Godhead?
If they're what, chanting or what?
No, they still eat meat, but they are from different religion. It's allowed in their religion.
Oh, people are eating meat in their own religion. Well, even in India, people following the Vedas, some of them are eating meat also. But of course, we say that this is not proper. It's a lower system. And Prabhupada also says that our provision for eating meat, you can worship Kali or Durga or something and offer them meat, and then you could eat it or whatever. But at least there's some restriction there. So that's for some people on a lower stage. They could eat meat under certain restrictions. So we see in Islam and in Judaism, you could eat beef, but there's certain restrictions on that. You have to kill it in a certain way, this and that has to be purified and whatever. So there is some restriction there. So that we can say is a little positive aspect, like if you want to eat meat in the Vedic system, then you have to offer to Kali and whatever like this, or do animal sacrifice. So there's some restriction there. So it's very similar. But of course, this is a lower type of activity, restricting people who can't avoid eating meat, they must eat meat. But higher is that you give up that, because we want to get to sattva, and from sattva we want to get to transcendental. So it interferes with the higher consciousness, so therefore we give it up completely. So people who are on a higher level in other religions, they may give up also. So we do find that there are some vegetarian Muslims. There are some vegetarian Christians, because they also realize that meat is not good for you. But it's more select. So similarly, we'll find that, yes, Vedas say you can eat meat, but those who are more intelligent, they will also say, no, we're not going to eat meat. But it's a minority again. But it's for higher knowledge, higher religion, so to speak. So people are on different levels. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So before ending the Bhagavatam, there is an interesting thing you can repeat. There are 3 goals defined by the Acharyas to all the devotees who are following the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu footsteps. So you can repeat with me. There are 3 goals. Number 1, repeat. 1. To attain the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Number 2, to increase our own devotion. Number 3, to attain prema for Radha and Krishna. So if you recite one time in the morning, one time in the night, it's very useful. Our goal is sometimes it's mixed with something else, so we recollect it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Kirtan Adelaide. Leave a like and subscribe.